The room was still, not the kind of silence that feels calm, the kind that comes when something has gone too far and can't be taken back. 1,000 people were watching, waiting, trying to understand what had just happened and what would happen next. She thought she had already said enough. That one moment, one accusation, had settled everything. But she was wrong, because some truths don't stay buried, and some people are only quiet until the moment matters most. I had listened, I had waited, and now it was my turn. My name is Naomi Carter, and what happened next is something none of them were prepared for. The room was still, not the kind of silence that feels calm, the kind that comes when something has gone too far and can't be taken back. 1,000 people were watching, waiting, trying to understand what had just happened and what would happen next. She thought she had already said enough. That one moment, one accusation, had settled everything. But she was wrong, because some truths don't stay buried, and some people are only quiet until the moment matters most. I had listened, I had waited, and now it was my turn. My name is Naomi Carter, and what happened next is something none of them were prepared for. I am the founder and majority owner of Carter & Rowe Holdings. This time, the silence broke differently, not with noise, but with recognition. A sharp inhale from somewhere in the room, a whisper, then another. Wait, Carter & Rowe? That's her? I knew I recognized her. The shift was immediate, undeniable. Evelyn's expression didn't just change, it faltered. Confusion, then disbelief. That's not, she started, but her voice didn't carry the same authority anymore. I held her gaze, calm, unmoved. The company operates under a private structure, I continued, which means my name isn't always the one you see. I let that sit. But the decisions, I added quietly, those have always been mine. A man near the front straightened instantly. Another woman lowered her glass. Respect had entered the room, and it had replaced something else, assumption. I turned my head slightly, looking toward Darius. He wasn't standing tall anymore. He looked unsettled, confused. "You never told me," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. I studied him for a moment. "You never asked," I replied. That landed harder than anything else I had said, because it was true. "You told me you were consulting," he added, almost defensively. "I was," I said calmly. "I just didn't think I needed to list every company I owned to be respected in my own marriage." A ripple moved through the crowd, because now this wasn't just about Evelyn, it was about him too. I turned back toward the stage. "You called me a gold digger," I said. The word sat in the air, heavy. "I didn't respond earlier," I continued, "because I wanted to be sure you understood what you were saying." Evelyn swallowed, just slightly. "But the truth is," I said softly, "I built my life long before I met your son." Another pause. "And when he applied to one of my companies," I let that sink in. I knew who he was. That changed everything. Darius's head snapped up. "What?" "I sat in your final interview," I said. "You didn't know. I prefer it that way." The room was locked in now. Every word, every detail. "I liked you," I continued. "You were grounded, honest, not impressed by titles." My voice softened, just slightly. "That's why I didn't tell you who I was." A pause. "I wanted to be chosen for me." That truth landed differently, not as power, but as vulnerability.
But somewhere along the way, I added, that stopped mattering to you. Darius didn't respond, because he couldn't. You let your mother define me, I said. You stood beside her while she reduced me. My voice didn't rise, but it didn't need to. And tonight, I looked at Evelyn again, you decided to do it publicly. The room held its breath. And the irony is, I said, I never needed anything from your son. A pause. I chose him. Silence. And that, I finished quietly, is the part you never understood. No one spoke. Not immediately. Because the truth had settled, and it had nowhere to go. Evelyn stood still on the stage, no longer commanding, no longer certain. For the first time, she looked like someone who had misjudged everything. I didn't know, she said finally, her voice quieter now. I nodded once. I know. Because this was never about what she knew. It was about what she chose to believe. You should have said something, she added quickly, trying to recover, trying to hold on to something. I tilted my head slightly. Would it have changed anything? I asked. Silence, because we both knew the answer. No. I turned to Darius. He looked different now, not confident, not steady, just unsure. I didn't think it mattered, he said, weakly. I held his gaze. It didn't matter to you, I replied. A pause. And that's the problem. That hit him, because now he understood. This isn't just about tonight, I continued. My voice softened, but my words didn't. It's about every moment you stayed silent, every time you let her speak for you, every time you let me stand alone. I thought you saw me, I said. A small pause. But you only saw what was convenient. The room was quiet again, but this time it wasn't uncomfortable. It was honest. I took a slow breath. I didn't come here to prove anything, I said. I came because I believed I was part of this family. I looked at Evelyn, but I was wrong. Then back at Darius, and so were you. He stepped forward. Naomi, we can fix this. I shook my head gently. No, I said. Not angry, not emotional, just certain. Respect isn't something you fix after you've lost it. That landed. I won't stay in a place where I have to shrink to be accepted, I added. A pause. I've done too much to become less than I am. Silence. Final. I wish you well, I said quietly. And this time, I meant it. Not because I was hurt, but because I was done. I turned and I walked away. Not rushed, not dramatic, just steady. The sound of my heels echoed again, but this time it didn't feel heavy. It felt free. Behind me, no one followed, because some endings don't need witnesses. They just need truth.
Some people think victory is loud, that it needs applause, that it needs approval. But real victory is knowing when to walk away. That night, I didn't lose a marriage. I let go of a place where I was never truly valued. And in doing that, I chose myself. Because sometimes the hardest decision is also the right one. If this story spoke to you, if you've ever had to choose yourself in a moment that cost you everything, then you already understand. This is what we share here on Triumph Legends. Stories of truth, stories of strength, stories of the moment everything changes. So if you haven't already, subscribe and stay with us, because the next story might be the one you didn't know you needed. And remember, never stay where your worth has to be explained.